Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, September the 19th. I woke up, had my coffee, opened my phone this morning, and apparently there's a patch. I had no idea this was coming. This is really exciting news. When it comes to Blizzard and Starcraft 2, I think any news is good news. I think we can all agree on that. Post EWC, we didn't know what Blizzard's plans were. There's been no clear signs. While this isn't like a message about what the future explicitly is for StarCraft 2, I think it's a very good sign because it shows that they're putting some interest into the game and trying to maintain it. So I'm excited. This is very cool. I actually thought people were joking at first about this patch, and then I realized after a minute, no, this is real. So we're going to go through this together. I'm going to give some broader thoughts at the end of this. And here we go. StarCraft 2. 5.0.15 PTR patch notes down here, starting with Zerg. So the Spire cost has been changed, as well as centrifugal hooks. Now give plus 5 HP bonus to Banelings again. The pair of these upgrades here tells me there might be an attempt to get Mutabane back into the game. I don't know how effective that's going to be. Getting the Banelings, I think a little bit more of a boost is probably worthwhile. A lot of the TVZ matchup, as an example, or ZVT, excuse me, has really moved away from I think a Baneling style we were pretty used to. Not that that's good or bad, but this definitely is kind of a nod to push that back in that direction. I mean, historically, the Banelings have been like basically the best unit in the game throughout StarCraft 2, so I can see them trying to throttle that in the past or trying to push it back in here now. But yeah, I mean, okay, let's see, what that does to the matchup, how that changes things. It does feel like, especially with the RSL, which, by the way, if you're watching this, RSL finals are this Sunday. I'm going to be going in and casting the third to last day here later tonight. So it'll probably be, this video will probably be uploaded after that. But anyways, when I was casting the ZVTs there, by the way, we're running out of Zergs and Terrans pretty quickly in that tournament. It did feel like Zergs don't have as much of a range of play styles available to them, which I think it's always good to have a couple different approaches. Just like when you see Terrans go for mech versus bio. I think that's interesting when players have different avenues to go down. Anyways, that's my take on that. I think it's a welcome change. This one's big. Microbial Shroud reduces attack range by 50% damage. So it reduces range attacks, not attack range. It reduces all range attacks by 50% damage. And Microbial Shroud no longer persists for a few seconds after the unit has left the Shroud. So there has been an idea from Brood War that I think is constantly, we've seen kind of attempted here with StarCraft 2 often, and this seems like another one of those moments, similar to like when they put the Disruptor in the game. They were really trying to capture the idea of what a Reaver did in Brood War. Some people, they like one StarCraft over the other, which I always found weird. I think they're both great. But I do think the Dark Swarm mechanic, while it is the strongest ability and most impactful ability maybe in any StarCraft matchup ever in the game, I think it does make it interesting. I don't know if this is going to be too strong and what it's going to do to the matchup. I think, honestly, it's kind of exciting. When I see a lot of people that are, some of you guys tweeted me about, the different patch changes and what people want to do. And I know that sometimes when you play a lot, you tend to focus on like, well, this unit needs to be tweaked here and this other unit needs to be tweaked a little bit there. And you're trying to kind of sand the game down to, a really safe, balanced state, which I think certain patches need to have. I think it's also important for some patches to actually change the whole way the game is played for the sake of changing the way the game is played. I don't think we're ever going to have... First of all, we know that Blizzard's not making StarCraft 3 because we know they're not hiring anybody who works on RTS games to make a StarCraft 3, unless they're getting really good at hiding stuff, which, I don't know. I think you'd see posts on LinkedIn if they were doing that. We also know there's not going to be a fourth expansion set out of nowhere here for StarCraft 2. So I think it's important that there are changes that are made that can really make it interesting for the player and the user in a way that it's almost like it's a new expansion set. Obviously not, it's not going to be that dramatic, but a change like this, changing Microbial Shroud, will really change the way TVZ fighting has gone down. And I think that's interesting. You know, we've seen ideas like this in Brood War. Dark Swarm, look, TVZ still works. I will tell you, I played all the races in StarCraft 1, but I mained Protoss, but I've experienced Dark Swarm from both a Zerg player and a Terran player's perspective. And I mean, look, the whole matchup kind of revolves around it. You know, you try to kill them as Terran before it gets out. When it gets out, you change your whole unit composition to move around that. It changes the pacing of the game. So I think some people might be upset by this, but I think stuff like this and other changes that kind of force the whole, kind of shakes up the whole game are good. I would even welcome some big changes in, you know, unit costs and or even tech trees, you know, for the sake of the game in the years going forward are, again, even if the game seems like it's got balanced outcomes, you know, you look at games that are living games like League of Legends or you know, I mean, there's tons of other stuff. It's important to kind of mix it up and change it up so that the people that are active find new challenges. You know, there's new build orders to learn. I'm on a bit of a tangent here. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be going down each patch note. But anyways, the ideas like this are very welcome. And look, if it's too strong, okay, they change it again. If they're patching it now, that means that the Blizzard could patch it again in the future. So I think that's very cool. Protoss, energy overcharge grant has been reduced from 100 to 50 energy. Also, energy overcharge cooldown reduced from 60 to 45. I think this is fine. You know, the energy overcharge has been very strong, and I think it's really, you know, helped a lot in defending and kind of allowing Protosses to. I think Protosses have had a very good experience on this patch. But I do think it has created some real challenges. I would say especially just seeing the way that some of these games go down where like casting RSL or EWC this time around, it did feel like Protosses are just too hard to sometimes break. Where in a lot of TVs, you know, games with Terran or Zergs, it does feel like they're on the edge. It's not clear if they're going to make it. So I think that's fine. Everybody's been kind of talking about this anyways, so if there was going to be a patch, this was kind of what it was going to be. I'm going to talk about the Templar stuff in a second, but real quick here, the Mothership HP has been reduced. I think that's fine. I don't feel too strongly about this, but, you know, Protoss got a series of, I think, necessary buffs. By the way, to go on another tangent here, you know, I know a lot of Zergs have been complaining, and I get it, and I've seen the games, but, you know, Zerg has had an extremely good run in StarCraft 2, whether you like that or not. So it is probably, it's been due that the Zergs have to be put in a weird spot, and we have to see how another race is going to do okay for a while. And we'll see. Maybe Protoss continues to win. You know, there's a meme online. What's that term? Is it Poe's Law? You can't tell if someone's being sarcastic on the internet or not. People meme about Protoss being OP, and like, sure, I guess if you're a new player, there's a lot of cheese to deal with. But what about these laboratories we have called tournaments, where the best players in the world come and compete against each other? And, you know, the GSLs I've cast over the last 15 years, the, you know, all the tournaments we've seen overseas, there's been a lot of success for Zergs, and there's been a couple Terrans that have hung in there, but Protoss have you know, the results aren't there, and I don't think, you know, I think it's worth pointing that out. So anyways, even though Protoss have looked good, and I think some of those changes they made previously were worth it, okay, these are welcome too. We can always throttle these and move this around. Psionic Storm duration increased, and Psionic Storm damage reduced from 10 to 5 damage per tick. So Psionic Storm is really different. And I'll tell you, as a Protoss player, you know, since the first couple years, I guess I played random for like 2 years or something. I've always, you know, off-raced a little bit in StarCraft, but, you know, Storm has a certain, I don't know, I'm used to it kind of doing a certain thing. In StarCraft 1, Storm lasted longer, and was, but like did more damage over time. StarCraft 2, the Storm came down really fast. This almost feels like it's moving back into StarCraft 1. How long is a StarCraft 1 Storm? Maybe like 3.5 seconds or something. Oh my God, my camera's going crazy. I'm sorry about that. Is my fan on for my camera? Yeah. Sorry about the camera bugging. Actually, I think I know what the issue is here. No, never mind. I don't have other programs running. So, anyways, yeah, that's gonna kind of iconically change the way Storm's played. Storm is now gonna, in some ways, occupy a space, for longer, where I guess you can't push through there. I feel like this is sort of what Force Field was for, but this is like something with Force Field. I don't know. This is an interesting one. Let's try it out. Let's see what happens. You know, one of the larger, I don't know if it's an issue with StarCraft, it's the way the game's programmed, is units really clump up, and they move in a very fluid way, which is why splash damage is so strong. Archons, even Reavers, stuff like that in StarCraft 1 aren't good in the way they are in StarCraft 2. And when I say Reaver, I'm talking about Disruptor in this case. Storm, you know, if you watch Terrans, and, you know, Terrans have had a really tough time against Protoss. I've really watched this unfold, and I always try to keep a pretty neutral perspective, but a lot of the games I watch, you know, in the current patch, I go, I don't know what Terran's supposed to do. Because Protoss seems to be safe very early. They're able to put pressure with Stalkers on. Okay, fine, that's the burden of Terran to deal with that in the matchup at that time. But Storm, you can get it so quickly, and it just shuts down what Terran can do. And because in the current version it comes out so fast and then does the damage so quickly, it doesn't seem to be something that can preempt it. I wonder if another way to work around this would have been to have something like the Ravager ability, where you see it. I think, you know, Ravager ability, what is it, Corrosive Bile? You're never going to not dodge that in most games, but maybe you have something that, for you know, a much shorter period of time, the Terran, you know, it would have shown, and Terran has a chance to dodge. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but this is an interesting approach. I think let's give it a shot. Let's just see what happens. This could make for some interesting plays. It is hard for my brain to kind of imagine what this looks like, so I'm not going to try to figure it out. I'm going to wait for players better than me to start doing stuff with it. But big changes here with Storm. Yeah. Dark Templar blink attack delay reduced. I actually kind of forgot they had blink. I don't know about you guys. So yeah, let's get more DTs with blink. I think that made for some exciting stuff. Surveillance mode now reveals observers, and surveillance mode now increases vision from 13.75 to 15. Okay. It didn't occur to me, you know, I'm so used to the observer just always being invisible and then dying the moment that they see it, but I might be in the minority on this. I was never a huge fan of surveillance mode, and maybe this is because I'm old school, and I tend to kind of shy away from some quality of life fixes for the sake of keeping the game hard. But, okay, fair enough. I think especially, you know, we're talking about Terrans getting Psystormed while they try to attack in there. I think it's really important, specifically in the matchup Protoss versus Terran, that you don't have the same features that Zerg have. Zerg are able to put out creep tumors and overlords and burrow units, and there's a million ways for Zerg to kind of spy on you, and that's sort of what the whole race is supposed to be, is they're surveying you and trying to prepare to deal with you. TVP is an interesting matchup because, especially with this addition, with the change in surveillance mode here, I think this is a matchup where you should be in the dark a lot of times. It should be kind of a matchup where you're trying to scout out, that you're trying to see what they're doing, but there could be a lot of surprises. A warp prism can fly in your base and warp in a ton of units. There can be a huge, you know, a 5 medevac drop into your main. But, you know, one of the issues I think that this might have been addressing earlier is the fact that Protoss is just going to see you coming and then storm you. And maybe that was already fixed with the storm up here. I don't know. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see if observers are just killed off super quickly, more quickly than they already are. Going on to Terran, Siege Tank can no longer be abducted when in siege mode. This is interesting. I feel like this idea over here is going to pair with Microbial Shroud. I think what they're trying to do is move the matchup into Microbial Shroud really being the tool that's going to deal with engaging with entrenched positions. And so they don't want to have Vipers harpooning tanks. That would be my guess. You know, TVZ, and every once in a while there are matchups that get into this mode where it becomes like sort of this weird never-ending kiting game. And I think it's important, and this is where I think occasionally Brood War has done this a little bit better than StarCraft 2. And part of it's because Brood War's UI is like old, and so it's kind of hard to there's things that are hard to do in Brood War and easy to do in StarCraft 2, and then hard to do in StarCraft 2 and easy to do in Brood War because of the way they're designed. We're never going to change that. But I think it's important to get positions that are entrenched and then shattered, or the person who tries to break them is annihilated, or the guy who's got the entrenched position advances a little bit too forward and is annihilated. A lot of the matchups have become these sort of never-ending, mass expanding kiting wars, specifically in TVZ, and I've kind of, I don't know. I'm not crazy for it. I actually think in some ways it was, I don't know. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. I like some late game is fine. Long games are good, but if it feels like it's an inevitability in a lot of games with certain players of skills, I don't know if that's a good thing. Maybe Microbial Shroud it changes that. Let's keep an open mind to it. Viking costs reduced. I was wondering if this is going to impact TVT the most with the kind of interested unit compositions we get early on. You know, TVT is there's a lot of different sets of units you can have right away. Once you get your 1-1-1 up, you know, the starport barracks and factory up. You can have a Raven, a medevac, you know, Marines, Reapers from the early game, Hellions, Cyclones, tanks, and Vikings. And the Vikings been used a lot as kind of a Swiss Army knife unit where it can fight on the ground. It can also spot in the air. It can also drive the opponent's Raven or medevac away, and maybe it's going to be used even more here. So that's my take with that. Drilling claws. I can't. Sorry, guys. My mouth is still booting up here. I'm like slurring my speech. These are the first spoken words of my day. Drilling claws effectiveness increased from a little bit over a second to a little bit under a second. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm not sure if there was a specific reason for that, but maybe they felt like Protosses were a little bit too good at getting away in time from that. You know, Widowmine drops are pretty punishing, but I think at pro play, and I do, by the way, I think you have to balance the game from a pro level down. I've heard really stupid arguments like you need to balance it for new players. Like, what are we talking about? If they're new, they're going to learn the game, and then it doesn't matter. You should be trying to focus the game on, you know, who's really there and playing. Anyways, I'm fine with that. Maybe it makes things more exciting. I think we need a lot of dramatic moments to make an RTS game good. Banshee speed is going to be, research time is decreased, so we're going to have a lot more Banshee harass. Okay, let's do it. Why not? That might play more into mech. Maybe we have more early Banshee usage with Cloak here versus Protoss. I don't know. Bug fixes. Fix an issue with the Cyclone attack upgrade. Give me +1, +2. Okay, cool. Fix an issue with Mothership attack range. Uh-oh, guys. Here's the big one. Fix an issue with Cyclone lock-on cooldown at last. I think we can all be happy about that unless you played a lot of mech. This is all great. The final one fixed an issue with orbital commands not auto-rallying. So, look, these are great changes. And maybe you disagree. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. But here's, I think, the more important takeaway. We didn't know that there was ever going to be a patch in this game ever again. You know, I've been... excuse me. You gonna sneeze? No. Okay. False alarm. I, you know, worked really closely with Blizzard, especially after Starcraft 2 came out. You know, on the circuits they ran. You know, I worked with them, alongside with them in Korea. You know, went to meetings with them in LA to kind of talk about the game. And then, you know, there was this mass exodus of Blizzard employees, which was sad. They're all my friends, and I really didn't know what the state of the game was. Then Microsoft bought Blizzard, and I didn't know what that meant. And, you know, my big question was, is this for new IP? Or are they going to also kind of keep the Blizzard legacy alive where, you know, what Blizzard did best was they made games that you never had to stop playing. Blizzard's games were the first games I never stopped playing. You know, now it's actually fairly common. Most people, nowadays there's about, like, I don't know, 7 to 10 games that everybody plays. A lot of them are old. But Blizzard's kind of the company that started that. And the fact that they're doing balance patch changes is a nod to maybe they will work with EWC, the Esports World Cup, to have the game there again next year. And by the way, that really... The future of StarCraft 2 hangs on that thread. So the fact that they're doing this is incredible. It means, and I don't know who's, if that person is at Blizzard is watching this, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to connect with you. But that's huge, man, because that means if there's another big bug that comes up, the game can be patched. Look, I think there's a world where if they just put a couple simple microtransactions in the game, there would be enough money to have somebody kind of have the custodial duty of patching the game and, keeping the whole thing in a healthy state moving forward. I know that Blizzard's had people working on the RTS games in their department. They just remastered Warcraft 1, in case you missed that, and Warcraft 2. They apparently are working on Warcraft 3. Apparently they're patching Starcraft 2. So this is amazing. I would definitely sing Blizzard's praises. Let them know on social media that you see this and that you care. And look, I mean, this is a big deal. Sometimes I think people are a little bit myopic about like the balance of the game and this and that. The point is anybody managing this? And it looks like the answer is yes. And these are some welcome changes. And a lot of these are changes that we needed a while ago, but it's never too late to fix them. So shout outs to Blizzard. That's awesome. Basically, I'm in the middle of doing ASL. If you haven't been caught up on that or didn't know that was going on, just type in ASL and Tastosis on YouTube. It's season 20 now. We're about to wrap up RSL. We've got a Patreon for that, patreon.com/revive SC2. That's been incredible. We got a little studio built out here in Seoul. And we're going to be doing a live event in Seoul in December. I'm negotiating with a couple different venues to put that on. So that's going to be a few days of live StarCraft 2. We'll be selling tickets for that if you want to come down in person. I'll be there. Players, casters, live audience, all that. So that's really exciting as well. And, remember that, as long as there is a scene for a game and people that love watching the game and love playing the game, people like me that love casting the game, and there is a publisher that loves the game and the community and can, whether it's like fixing the Cyclone bug like we saw there, to keep the game fair and quality of life, or this Microbial shroud change here and making the meta interesting and spicy, I think that, games can last for forever. I don't see why not. And so cheers to that. There's some happy news for you guys with all that. I'll be doing a Halloween scary game stream, 1:30 to 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday this October, since I don't have any StarCraft tournaments I'm doing. And I think that's it. So feel free to join me for that. It's on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/tastelesstv. Again, like, subscribe, leave a comment. YouTuber, I'm a YouTuber, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do all that stuff. And I hope to see you in a future video. Bye-bye.